just because Princess Anne is a royal, that doesn't make her immune to rocky relationships. Case in point, her first marriage to Captain Mark Phillips. Though there had been years of private tension and public animosity, Princess Anne and Mark Phillips' separation announcement still came as a shock to the royal family and the British public as a whole. It hadn't been since Princess Margaret's shocking split from Anthony Armstrong-Jones that a separation had rocked the royals, and Anne's decision in 1989 kicked off an era of royal marriages going south. In an announcement made by Buckingham Palace at the time, the royals insisted that Anne and Mark would not be getting divorced, but were instead taking time away from each other. The announcement read, "Her Royal Highness the Princess Royal and Captain Mark Phillips have decided to separate on terms agreed between them. There are no plans for divorce proceedings." The details about the separation were not made public, but the palace did confirm at the time that Mark would be moving out of their home in Gloucestershire, while Anne would be staying there with their 2 children. Peter Phillips and Zara Tindall were just 11 and 8 years old at the time, respectively. Given that it was a separation and not a divorce, there were no details provided of any kind of settlement.
Does the press really annoy you?
Yes, I think it does. I think it wouldn't really be doing its job if it wasn't.
As Princess Anne's marriage to Mark Phillips was falling apart, she was exposed to some seriously harsh media coverage and critics. The most severe fallout came when personal letters of hers from Commander Timothy Lawrence, who worked as one of Queen Elizabeth II's equerries, were stolen from her possession and handed over to the press. What started as a personal nightmare turned into a public scandal, and The Sun, one of the United Kingdom's biggest and most notorious tabloids, published that they had the contents of the letters in their possession. In order to avoid a lawsuit, The Sun published a headline that read, "Palace thief steals Anne's letters, Sun to the rescue." By doing so, they spilled the beans that Anne was exchanging intimate letters with someone other than her estranged husband. But they avoided any legal ramifications, as they did not publish the actual letters themselves. Though the publication did give the correspondence to the authorities, their decision to go ahead with the coverage, albeit with a sideways angle, allowed publications like People and other local media outlets to cover Anne's devolving marriage in a way that the princess was never exposed to in the past.
These were love letters. There was something going on between the 2 of them.
Princess Anne going out of her way to embrace the drama is a side of hers that we don't see often, but she was ready to go down fighting when her separation hit the headlines in the late 1980s. Alongside her own personal life going up in flames were her brother's dual separations from their own spouses. Prince Andrew and his wife, Sarah Ferguson, were parting ways, and then Prince Charles and Diana Spencer made their intentions to separate known as part of the War of the Wales that had played out in the public eye.
They sold a lot of newspapers in Britain today, and they all had the same story: the divorce.
According to journalist Phil Dampier, the Princess Royal went as far as thinking about confronting her older brother about his behaviour within his own marriage. Deciding instead to embrace the drama, Anne was accompanied to the royal ascot that same year by none other than Andrew Parker Bowles, her ex-boyfriend and then husband of Camilla Parker Bowles. According to Dampier, Anne and Andrew are best friends who remain close to this day. As Princess Anne's major separation news started to die down a little, the public's attention was taken off of her once again when then Prince Charles and Diana Spencer announced in 1992 that they too would be separating. It was about 3 years after Anne and Mark Phillips made it clear that their lives would not be carrying on together. And while the Princess Royal's news marked the first time since Princess Margaret got divorced from her husband, Charles's own separation reared the press and public's ugly head in a new way. As royal watchers know, Diana was adored by the public and was often seen as the shining star of the royal couple. Their marriage had been fraught with personal strife, extramarital affairs, and rumours of consistent unhappiness. By 1992, things were at a stalemate, and then Prime Minister John Major announced that the two would be formally separating. Anne's life proceeded relatively normally, all things considered, while her brother's marriage fell to pieces. She had 2 young kids, her royal duties, and her equestrian career to focus on. Meanwhile, Charles and Diana's implosion dominated the headlines and provided the main source of royal drama until their official divorce in 1996. Though the initial announcement regarding Princess Anne and Mark Phillips' separation made it clear that a divorce would not be in the couple's future, the two finally and formally called it quits in 1992. All things considered, it was fairly straightforward, and plenty of other royal drama kept the public satisfied, while Anne dealt with her personal life behind closed doors. As the estranged couple was figuring out the logistics of their divorce, Queen Elizabeth reportedly cautioned Anne about being too severe. Per the UPI archives, the monarch made it clear that consistency would be key in order to save Peter Phillips and Zara Tindall any emotional strife as their parents divorced, and even went as far as to determine that Peter specifically would greatly suffer if he were to be forced away from Mark. As such, the exes found common ground when it came to their children, and even charted a path forward that benefited them both. Given that they had been separated for more than 2 years, Anne was able to file an uncontested divorce, streamlining the process significantly. The Princess Royal maintained her residence at Gatcombe Park with Peter and Zara, while Mark was granted the ability to remain in the vicinity, according to the statement provided by Buckingham Palace to the Washington Post. Princess Anne's intimate connection with Timothy Lawrence had become public knowledge due to the letters that made it into the headlines. However, she was finally able to pursue her connection with Timothy as her divorce became final. Before his employment working alongside the royal family, Timothy enjoyed a fruitful naval career and even held a position on the Queen's beloved yacht, the HMY Britannia. While it remains unclear exactly when the two first met, given that Timothy worked for Queen Elizabeth as an equerry, it is largely assumed that his employment beginning in 1986 first allowed Timothy and Anne to cross paths. By 1989, Anne had made Timothy a trustee for her charity, and an insider even commented on the decision in an interview with People at the time, saying, "The appointment just shows Anne's affection for him." By the time Anne and Mark got divorced, the princess was in a full-fledged relationship with Timothy, and the two stepped out in public for the first time just moments after the princess's divorce was finalised. Though it seemed rather scandalous, especially for a royal, Anne kept her cool. You may have thought that Princess Anne would take a little bit of time to be single, enjoy her life without her ex-husband around, and revel in her newfound sense of freedom. Nope. She got married the same year that her divorce was finalised, tying the knot with Timothy Lawrence in December of 1992. As she had already been married before, Anne was not allowed to have a big royal wedding in Westminster Abbey this time. Much like then Prince Charles and Camilla Parker Bowles, they'd had to downsize their civil ceremony due to the royal family's connection to the Church of England and its overwhelming disapproval of divorce. So, Anne and Timothy instead got married at Crathy Kirk Church in Scotland, just a short distance from Balmoral Castle. Taking the fuss out of the day, Anne wore a classic white dress suit and jacket, and Timothy wore his navy uniform. The newlyweds were subsequently joined by the royals for a reception back at Balmoral. Anne and Timothy have been happily married ever since. Though Princess Anne is the hardest working royal both past and present, making herself available in the public eye on many occasions throughout the year, she has kept her private marriage to Timothy Lawrence very close to her chest. When Anne and Timothy got married in 1992, the Royal Navy veteran decided not to adopt a royal title, much like Mark Phillips when he and Anne originally tied the knot. Instead, Queen Elizabeth made him a knight in 2011. Perhaps the only insight that has really been given into Anne's life post-divorce has come from her daughter, Zara Tindall, who opened up about her mother during a BBC interview in 2010, marking Anne's 60th birthday. Zara said, "I look at her and just think if I was going to be a mother, that's what I would want to be like. I would like to be as good a mother as she has been to us." Apart from Zara's insight, Anne and Timothy keep their life together private, reveling in their roles as grandparents. When not working or attending an event in the evening, Anne is said to enjoy her time at home with Timothy, who makes her a martini every night. The princess is famous for only drinking coffee during the day and the classic cocktail every evening. Despite their strenuous relationship, separation, and eventual divorce, Princess Anne and Mark Phillips are actually quite cordial with one another. Maintaining decorum while their children were young, Anne and Mark not only successfully co-parented Peter Phillips and Zara Tindall, but they have been spotted enjoying each other's company on a number of occasions. Like her mother, Zara pursued an equestrian career and reached varying levels of success, even going as far as representing Great Britain at the Olympic Games. When the Games were hosted in London in 2012, Zara was the pride of her home country, taking home the silver medal as a member of the Great Britain equestrian team. Not only was the public proud of the royal, but Anne and Mark also got together for a number of Zara's competitions throughout her career, making it known that they were a united team supporting her ambitions. Even still, Anne and Mark have joined family events alongside Anne's second husband, Timothy Lawrence, clearly proving that their past drama is just that, in the past.
Princess Anne has dismissed calls for a slimmed-down monarchy, saying it doesn't seem to her like a good idea.
Since her divorce from Mark Phillips, Princess Anne has rededicated herself to the crown, gotten remarried, worked more than any other royal, and sadly watched as both her parents died. After Queen Elizabeth II died in 2022, Anne's brother immediately became King Charles III, setting off a chain reaction and raising questions about the future of the monarchy. Amid Charles's own calls for a slimmed-down monarchy, Anne gave a rare interview with CBC about the ways in which the monarchy can modernise, telling the broadcast channel that narrowing down the working royals, quote, doesn't sound like a good idea. Anne said, "My mother didn't change very much. We kind of knew what the rhythm of the year was. So, things like that will change. How we are a part of the support for the monarchy may change slightly. Who knows?" Carrying on about the future of the monarchy, Anne said that the current moment calls for important discussions about modernity, but maintained that the crown serves an integral purpose that should be upheld.
But I would just underline that the monarchy provides, with the Constitution, a degree of long-term stability that is actually quite hard to come by any other way.